another episode of Pod Leaders, where we're inviting leaders of industry to come and talk about their experiences with us. So today I would love to introduce to you the lovely Anne Sidor, who joins us to talk about her journey through distribution and airline and all things fabulous within this industry. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm honoured. Thank you so much, Rachael, for inviting me.
Well, it's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure. So if we start from, for our listeners, for just a little bit of an introduction around how we're sat here today, really. I mean, how you started within the industry and your journey through it, that would be really interesting for all of us, I know.
Well, yes. I started 150 years ago. Well, not really. It feels like it. Believe it or not, I started off in corporate travel, which has always made me very passionate about that segment as well. It's very, very close to my heart. I always said that I wouldn't work for airlines because my husband worked for an airline. But of course, I ended up doing that. So my background is I've worked for Amadeus actually twice. I've worked for Pros. I've worked for ATP Go, an industry body. But I've also worked for more than 20 airlines in different contexts, directly for some airlines where I've been an employee and as a consultant with the majority of them. And one of the longest time periods was at Lufthansa, where I implemented the Direct Connect, or the NDC program.
Fantastic, my word. It's quite an accomplishment, I can imagine.
Thank you.
Lots of people working towards that end goal, I'm sure. So talk to us a little bit about distribution, if you may, just a little description of how that sits within the industry and the to's and fro's of it all.
Yes, I mean, of course, distribution, as we know it, is essential. I mean, it's just any industry. I mean, how do you sell your stuff and how do you do that as cost effective and fast as possible, I would say. And it was the airline industry, or the sort of travel industry, I should say, because we have those segments with the airlines, the TMCs, the what then became the online agents, and you have the traditional brick and mortar agents. That was sort of the flow of all of this, or how it worked originally. And I guess I've been lucky in that way that I was working in this industry when it all started to happen in sort of the mid 2000, when internet took off and internet distribution became a thing. Because prior to that, everything was very much, this is the way it works. This is how much it costs. This is the way it's always been, and it's been like this since the 60s, etc. And of course, what happened was that, and I always try to explain it this way because this is why NBC happened. Traditional, I would say, airlines, they were looking at low-cost airlines saying that, oh, well, they're not a threat. They're never going to grow. They're not going to become... I mean, I actually worked for an airline that said, oh, Ryanair, so tiny, you will never... Nothing will ever happen. And today we're looking at, 120 million passengers, right? But of course, what the low-cost airlines were able to do, and this started happening in sort of mid-2000, was that they lowered their cost of distribution considerably, right? Because they were showing like there is such a thing as internet distribution. I don't have to go through all these traditional ways of distribution that are very, very high maintenance and high cost. Then they started selling all sorts of content. They were saying that, oh yeah, you can bring a bag, but you have to pay for it, etc. So they started to unbundle those services that we were very, back in the day, it was very set. You either, this was the package, what you got. And think of it, Rachael, this is the way a ticket, what it looks like, even though it's electronic today, it doesn't look at all different from a paper ticket, because it has, that stuff in it, right? It has the bags, it has, all that was sort of part and parcel of that package. So they started doing that. And then, of course, they said, well, I'm not going to distribute through global distribution systems because I want to choose who I distribute to. And I want to make the decision that I want to maybe just sell to the public. And maybe I don't want to work with agencies at all. And of course, in the GDS environment, you can't control who you sell to. And lastly, I would say that the low-cost airlines, they were showing us that, hey, it's about the customer experience. We can do cool stuff. We can in the beginning, I mean, it kind of looked like school projects, didn't it? But it sort of transformed, and there was a huge focus on digital transformation. At the time when I was working, we're looking at 2005, 2006, 2007. Airlines were saying, having 8% internet sales is really high, or it's never going to go above 10% is the maximum that we're going to, that's the maximum reach. And it was some pretty interesting debates at the time. So, and of course, what happened was, what happened, and it sort of took off, and the LCCs were leading the way. And that's actually how NDC was, should we say, created or designed by the traditional airlines as a response to be able to do all of that. Because, all those airlines didn't have their own APIs. They had nothing. Yeah, they had nothing.
So David really led Goliath at that point.
Yes.
And changed the game. They really
changed the game totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Well, things have come on leaps and bounds since that point, haven't they? My word, even in the last 5-8 years, things have fundamentally changed within all types of distribution channels and partnerships, alliances, and all different bits and pieces that go towards this. We missed each other, but met after the T2RL introduction from this year. There was huge amounts of things announced across Sabre Mosaic and different new products that are coming to the world, as is now. How have you found the last few months of change, and how have you, how do you even get around it? How's everything been for you?
It's really funny that you should ask that question, because I started talking about retailing, or we can call it many things, but orchestration, I should say. I started talking about that in 2014. So it's 10 years that I've been talking about this, how we have to move away from, and that's also the sort of simplest way to explain this. The airline industry has been designed around the PNR, the passenger name record. Every system, and that being airlines or that being agents, TMCs, OBTs, whatever you name it, have all been designed around this record, which, as you know, is built on Edifact, is clunky, and it's not at all cost effective to try to retrofit stuff into this famous or infamous PNR. But I started back in 2014 talking about, yes, you want to sell other content. Why do you have to fit it into this PNR environment? There's no need. You can have, an environment that orchestrates and manages stuff, let's call it stuff, instead of this focus on this PNR. That has taken off now. I think the way I see it, well, I'm not saying that it's happening now, because it has happened. There have been airlines who went down this path and realized that, yes, we can't be PNR-centric. There are TMCs that have also gone in that direction. There's actually one TMC that I really admire who started actually setting aside all their incentive money and planned for a transformation of their systems, and saying, this is what we need. I have no problem naming that agency because I admire them so much. It's Grey Doors in the UK.
Oh, wow.
It's really, really forward thinking. And we have So on the TMC and the agency side, of course, we have, of course, you've come across Spotnana. There are several technical suppliers or software companies that have moved in that space of we need to work with an order-based environment. And some airlines did that as well. And I was very lucky to start working with airlines quite early on some of those projects. And I've implemented offer and order solutions, and I am implementing offer and order solutions, which, of course, it's a delight for me to see that, yes, finally the penny has dropped. We don't have to stay in this PNR environment where everything, and when I say everything, I'm meaning that the back office systems were designed around the PNR, the mid office systems, everything has been designed around the structure that no longer is fit for purpose.
And just the data sourcing alone, it's of no value to the airlines themselves. You can do much more and wider, more exciting things with this than straight down the line on that.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
So, Anne, a bit of a future visionary. Love that.
Thank you.
Your crystal ball works very well. That's brilliant. I'll ask you what your next thing is at the end. But what is screaming out to me is a change management piece. So you must have seen some really different change management environments through your time within different environments. So, what do you think? What's your leadership style around change management? And maybe you could give us some top tips or some advisory around that piece.
Yeah, and it sounds really, it's kind of the same that everyone is saying, and I think it's easier. It's not as easy to do it in real life is to break down. You really have to work much more together. You have to have a more holistic approach to it all. And but that being said, some of the most successful airlines I've seen is where you actually separate the operational and that piece of it, and you then separate the commercial. Okay. So the commercial stuff is business driven with because operational is, of course, and has to be very, very safety focused.
Yeah.
And everything has to be, but that mindset is not what you need when it's business driven, because you need to. So I guess my best advice is you need environments where you have to be able to fail. I always admire Peter Glade, who was working for Sun Express. He always said, I tried all of this and it failed. But in the end, I got it right. And this turned out to be such a huge success, and I never expected it to be. And that's what you need to do in retail and distribution. And you need to sort of try stuff and figure out, does this work for us? And that kind of environment, I think, has been a bit painful in the airline industry. And I would say also in the TMC and agency environment, although they are, especially the agency, the OTAs are much better at it. They just experiment more, but that mindset we need more of. So I guess that's my biggest advice. And yeah.
I think, experimenting has always been a bit challenging in our industry, isn't it? We're a little bit risk averse, but I guess we're moving into more of a marketing age where things can be trial and error, and hopefully you can see more customer impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so sad that the profit margins of airlines are so low.
Yeah,
because I think this is also this is hindering the industry. You want to make safe bets, etc., and you're risk averse for that reason. But the thing is that in order to make more money, you really have to experiment and look at. And I think you should look at your processes. How much does this cost? And I think the industry as a whole that's the thing I miss the most, that we don't look at the processes and the processing cost of those. Gosh, we have auditing companies all over, revenue integrity, revenue account. I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
it just has to be modernized.
absolutely. There's a better way, a slicker way to all of
Yes,
that
there
those
is.
results. Brilliant. So it's been a bit of it's been a season for everyone getting together and going and seeing all the new products that are being launched across in Bangkok and Amsterdam over the last few weeks. How have you found? I mean, it's been seen. My LinkedIn is full of it. Which is brilliant, and the new Excelia product that's been launched yesterday and things. So, how are you finding things? How are you?
Well, like I
What do you
said,
see is the future?
to me, of course, it's true pleasure, because I've been talking about
Yeah.
this stuff for so long. So it's very rewarding to see that finally we're on the same page and we understand that this is what's needed. This is what you need to do. I think it's great that we're seeing lots of products. However, I find one of the most confusing elements right now, where I don't see the industry helping us, is that, so let me get back to sort of order management. There is a lot of talk about that we need to replace all the PSSs and they need to change and become, I guess, for lack of a better description, I would say order-based reservation and inventory systems.
Okay.
Right. That's and everyone's talking about the cost of this gigantic transformation, because, as you know, there are not that many passenger service systems in the world, and they've
Not at all.
looked the same, yes, and they
Yeah.
are PNR based, right? And they've looked the same for a long time. And everyone's talking about the massive cost. I believe at TTRL, right, Rachel, there was talk about 15% added
Yeah,
cost.
with the columns all along. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy, the different shift. Yeah.
Yes. Which I must say that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think it has to be. I don't believe in Big Bang. I don't think, that's the way forward to sort of start designing systems on such a big scale, for the industry to sort of migrate. Come on, we've got what, 700 airlines in the world. So I believe in the little steps. And something that is not that's becoming very vague with all these companies presenting their solutions is that, are we talking about a new reservation and inventory system? Is that what you're doing? Or are we talking about having order and content management capabilities? So the latter that I've been working a lot with and have implemented and am implementing, putting order and content management on top of any passenger service system, that is, of course, a sort of smoother transition way. It's a path forward to sort of make you less dependent on the passenger service system, and also giving you a possibility to migrate a lot faster. I'm being very technical right now, but it's kind of difficult to sort of explain what I mean at times. I guess this is the best way, that either we're talking this massive, huge transformation over here, or we're talking about facilitators or systems that can help you moving to a world of order and content management. Because come on, I mean, when you actually start working with order management, there's other stuff that you have to consider in the airline. You have to have at least some people who understand retailing, right? You need to figure out, how do I market this? How do I experiment? How do I do A to B testing? what is my strategy going to look like? How is this different from the way we've been working in the airline previously? And that actually brings me back to what I was saying. It's very nice to have a business-driven organization within the airline that is, very quite sort of separated from the operational stuff.
Absolutely.
So that and that to me was very, very unclear, both at TTRL and at World Aviation Festival. I actually have one company that wasn't really able to describe and tell me. I said, are you a reservation and inventory system then? Or are you an offering content management system on top? And couldn't even explain that to me.
Okay. So some product definition definitely needs to be
some product definition is out there. And that's what I think is a bit difficult and challenging, I think, with the IATA vision of one order, is that it is really the vision of changing the entire system, changing, everything as we know it today, which I think can be daunting and overwhelming and scary.
Totally, and it's just not in the natural culture of the airline industry, is it, to do a lift and shift like that? So I think any product that is helping, as you say, just ease that, make sure that there is those Lego building blocks being put in place to make that shift a little easier is always going to be a winner for the future, right?
Yeah, find your way, find your own way forward. And at the end of the day, I mean, maybe you really want to, do this very slowly. And I mean, there's always going to be with airlines, you have those who take very, very bold, brave steps, those who kind of, and actually I would say 4 types of airlines, right? There are those. Then there are the ones who just get on with it. They really don't listen to the other stuff much.
Do you see those guys as like the Middle East guys? Because I just see them as like so like they're like.
Actually, no, I don't see the Middle East guys in the second category. Not so far. Could be that we get to see that, but so far, no. I don't see them in that group. To give you an example of a carrier that I would put in that second group is LATAM. LATAM is definitely. I could give you many examples of these airlines, but LATAM is definitely one of them. And then, of course, you have the ones who play it safe, right? And who just want to sit and wait and see what's happening. Yeah. And then actually you have sort of a fourth group who sort of say, well, never going to do that. We're just going to stay as is.
Just flat now.
Yeah. Really, I mean, that's I've come across all 4.
I think I've spoken to a few from the last one, I must say.
But again, I mean, sometimes, the last group can actually shock you, because then they leapfrog and then they say, oh, right, off we go and do something completely different.
I never said that. No. We'll see. And I think, change is coming. So, it's going to have to be, but fingers crossed people can move up through those groups and do some
and change along the way. And that's what I mean about the second group of airlines there, the ones who just get on with it. And I've been very privileged to have worked and am working with airlines like that. Like I said, they just get on with it. They know what's needed and they move along that path. Sadly, sometimes in the sort of very big airlines, I would say the ones saying, "Oh, this is our ambition," it can be daunting and overwhelming, and maybe a bit too huge. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They don't break it down. Their vision is like massive, and I sometimes I say an airline with 4,900 requirements for an RFP maybe should break it down a bit and sort of just do it in chunks and have sort of smaller goals rather than this massive. I hope I've explained myself well enough.
No, you really have, and I think even from when I first started working in this, 10 plus years ago, the opportunity and product offering on the market now gives that opportunity for slow test, like not try before you buy, but like small bite-sized chunks of projects.
Yes.
Modularity seems to be running through all of the product offerings. So trying one part of it.
And we haven't seen much modularity at all for a very long time.
No.
I remember that was the messaging as well, when Altea grew, and they've grown, as you know, phenomenally. And as you could see at TTRL, have a huge dominance.
They do.
It's absolutely massive. And Altea, of course, has been built as this is the one solution for all your needs, be that revenue management, be that e-commerce, be that whatever it is, it's all under one roof, so to speak. Well, and here, of course, with modularity, it's a different story. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, even though Altea had the CM and the FM and the different, it was built as a separate thing. Really, it did all work very nicely together. So but I do see true modularity coming through in some of the new products.
Yes, it is. It is. Because, I mean, again, the disadvantage of everything in the same place is, of course, that you never really move any faster than all your competitors move as well, right?
Really?
It is a solution. It's the sort of the solution that should fit all, the slowest and the fastest at the same time. So
maybe our crystal ball, we need to find the perfect fit of each of the modules to work in exactly the right environment, and that's the that's the Tetris move for the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow, there you go. And thank you so much for summarizing everything that's happening at the moment. I mean, there's so much, isn't there, that you can hardly fit it in a quick half-hour chat. But you're working at the moment in consultancy, aren't you, in Endava with a colleague of yours in multiple spaces, I believe. So I'm sure that we will be crossing paths lots in the future about all the nice, exciting projects that you're going to be embarking on. Are you in the middle of something at the moment?
Yes, like I said, I'm currently implementing offer and order for the second time. So that, of course, is just so much fun. It is really, really good fun to see that progress. And yes, I'm sure our paths will cross in future. And
100%, I'll ensure it. Don't worry. I'm just going to throw a couple of questions, quick fire questions, just for people to get to know you a little bit more, and if that's okay. So, do you have a favorite piece of tech that you're using at the moment, like an app or?
Throw
you under them.
There are so many, and it's just so. I always say that I'm very impressed with banking. I'm very impressed with Revolut, for example.
Oh,
cool. I'm just. I think that finance and banking, they've done some pretty amazing stuff, and it keeps on impressing me. But there's so many. I always, I'm impressed by Uber. I was using them a lot recently, and I just think the convenience and the ease of use, and there's just so many.
It solves a problem, doesn't it? Absolutely. It just makes our lives easier, which is everything that a good app should do.
Yes.
Yes. Of an evening, are you found at the restaurant or in the disco?
Oh, in a restaurant. I'm a foodie, yes.
Oh, which brings me on to what would be your favourite food?
I was going to say I've got two left feet as well, so you won't find me in the disco. My husband always used to say I'm a worst dancer he ever came across. Not joking. My favorite food, it has to be Peruvian. I love to cook Peruvian food. I love ceviche, probably goes down as my favorite. Oh, wow. And then I love a crazy potato salad from Peru called causa. which I love to cook at
Oh,
home.
wow, that's
Yeah.
so nice. Brilliant. And my final one is, if you had any kind of superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, a magic wand, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be just fantastic to sort of a la Harry Potter style to sort of just go change?
As I say.
It would be
Yeah.
great, yeah,
Oh,
especially when it comes to
absolutely.
distribution, it would be fantastic.
We get so much done.
Yes.
Oh, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know everybody would really enjoy our conversation today. And let's revisit in the future and have a little update and see whether our crystal ball comes true.
Will do. Thank you so much, Rachel, for having
No
me.
problem. Thank you, Anne.